Welcome back to the Culture of Currency, where today we have a very exciting video as we get to get into one of the most historic world coins of all time. Longhorn Gold and Silver, which is oftentimes where I buy my generic silver. He reached out to me and said, hey, I have a coin that's quite interesting that you might want to do a video over. So he lent me this right here. This is 8 reals or 8 reals. Some people say it differently. It is one of the most historic and important world coins that we know of. It is absolutely a beautiful specimen. As you can see, this is the year 1800. And you notice all these little marks all over them. Those are not because of how old it is, but rather the condition of which life was in this time to validate some things that we'll get into. So when we talk about important world coins, that silver coins that is, there are two that always come to mind. One is this coin that we're going to get into today, and the other is this Maria Theresa dollar. This one says it was minted, as you see, in 1780, but that was basically what they did after she died, Maria Theresa. After she died, she was so loved that every coin thereafter was struck with the date of her death. And these were so popular in trade that they had mints creating these all the way through India, all over the world. Well, we should say the old world. They didn't have it in America. But basically, this was one of the most important coins when it comes to world coinage and its use, especially in the development of trade. But this right here might be one of the coins that is even more important. When we think about the Maria Theresa, most of what I come to think of is land trade, having caravans going from one nation to the other, that type of thing. You might have had some carted off in ships, but we do know that Austria is a country that does not touch the ocean. And so therefore, a lot of the trade was land-based, where this is Spain. And given the chop marks that you see here, we notice that this might be more of something we would have seen in the water. In fact, this is something that would have been minted in the New World. In fact, New Spain, or what we consider to be Mexico, is where this was minted. In fact, they had many mints in the New World where this would have been possibly minted. And we know where it was minted on the reverse. This one has the Bank of Moneda sign right here, right there. So as you can see, that means that it was actually minted in the Mexico City Mint, which is still around today. It's what creates the Libertads. It could have also been minted in, I believe, Lima, Peru, or Bolivia, or a couple of other places, but this one happens to be a Mexico specimen, and those would have different letterings in that area. But yeah, we have what it says right here, Corollas. A lot of people call this a Corollas. It is a silver coin. In fact, it's about 90% silver. I believe it's 0.903, if I remember correctly. And these were minted roughly from 1791 to 1808. So this is going to be on the later end of all of that kind of stuff. And this right here in particular would have been one that circulated Asia, and we'll get to that in a second, how we know that. When we look here on the obverse, we see Carolus the fourth, so obviously he's not the first, and then we see De Gratia, or Grazia, depending on how you like your Latin, which basically means Carlos the fourth, by the grace of God. On the reverse, from what we can still see here, which this is a pretty good condition one. It has good luster, but there is some wearing. But you see the Hispanic coat of arms here. You see a pair of pillars separated by a crown and a shield with lions, castles, pomegranate, and in the middle you have 3 centralized fleur-de-lis, which are kind of worn on this one, and there's a chop mark right on it. But That's what's supposed to be there. You have the lettering at HISPANETINDREX. You have the MO, which is once again the mint mark, and then the ARTH, which basically means King of Spain, right? Hispania, et Indrex, King of Spain, and the Indies, et IND is the Indies, right? This is back when they thought it was the Indies. You have 8R, which is 8 reals, and then you have the TH, which I don't know what the TH stands for, but it is there. And another interesting note is the reading on this is kind of there we go. The reading on it is kind of an interesting pattern. It almost goes between a square and an oval type thing. Very interesting pattern on that. But yeah, this is the Mexican mint, Casa de Moneda de Mexico, which was around from the 1500s. So think about that in Mexico, 1500s. So during the Renaissance, they had people in Mexico popping out these things. But yeah, this is a very, very popular coin. And in China, where we think this one would have floated around, these coins were so recognized for their quality and content that they would have paid up to 50% premium over other silver coins with equal weight. In fact, those other types of coins that they would have used a lot of times were discounted 20 to 30%, according to my research. Thus, it's quite common to see versions of this coin with chop marks like this one. And these chop marks that you see here, and I'll try to get some close-up pictures for you, are going to be little marks by merchants to validify that this is not a fake. So each of these little chop marks means it traded hands. And it could have traded hands for a number of reasons, but ultimately it probably would have come from the European markets over to Asia, and then it would have been used in Asian maritime trade quite consistently, and probably even mainland trade quite consistently. So it would have been passed around, and each time we had a major merchant pick it up, they had to validify that this was in fact a real silver real, and so they would put their little chop mark on it, which meant that this merchant has guaranteed or vouched for the quality and the purity and all that kind of stuff. Interesting coin. So I thought this was a fun one to bring to you. In fact, this would have been in the 1800s going around China, which was an interesting time, as this very well could have been one of the things that brought over the opium and traded for opium during the Opium Wars, which would have been happening in those mid-1800s. My guess is that this probably floated around for 50 to 100 years and then possibly made its way back, when maybe the Qing dynasty fell or something like that, or maybe the Boxer uprising. Somewhere in there, it could have found its way back. But there's no way to tell, honestly. But obviously, somebody eventually brought it back to the States, and it ended up in my hands. But I'll be giving this back to Longhorn Gold and Silver. He just thought it would be a fun one to make a video over, and I agree. It is, in my mind, one of the most important coins. And in fact, in the founding of America, before we started to create our own coinage, so we obviously were around in 1776, and as we discussed earlier, these were minted in 1791, but there were versions of this minted much earlier. A lot of these probably would have been circulating in the early colonies. It's very likely, as Spain was obviously here first down in San Augustine, Florida, and their influence went all the way to Texas, and then matriculated up as sometimes they were trading with French. So these could have been used throughout the colonies as well before we got to our own matter of currency, and would have been intermingled probably with a lot of the English currencies. Really cool. Thought you'd like it, but that is what we have today. As always, thank you so much for watching, and please remember to stay classy and current with the culture of currency.